This is your host, Amanda Fowler, and you're listening to Just Man's the podcast, the place where I empower you to be who you are, say what you want, and do what you dream. Here you'll find candid conversations surrounding the complexities of life, everything from womanhood, career, and self-growth to friendships, relationships, and opinions that feel a bit taboo. But I'm not just here to offer you tips and tricks to figuring it all out. Fuck that. I'm here to talk about it all. The shit that nobody wants to talk about. To air the laundry without it feeling dirty. Think of this as conversations with cool people and brain dumps that I decided to share with you instead of my journal. Because oversharing is kind of my love language. And if it's yours too, we'll get along just fine. Okay, honestly, I'm a little worried that I might get bit by a rattlesnake over here. Because I'm hearing some like... And I don't know if that's a rattle... Just a nature girly over here. Oh my gosh. You guys, if you didn't know, I'm from Orlando, Florida, and I grew up at the beach. Like, I love the beach. And then I went to college in Boulder, and I love Boulder. I love the mountains, okay? Don't get me wrong. But, like, I think I'm still trying to learn how to love nature. Like bugs. I don't like bugs. And maybe I picked the wrong spot to be recording this episode, but if you are familiar with Boulder, it gets so crazy busy on the weekend. Like on Saturdays, everyone is out at Boulder Creek. And I didn't think about that when I went to go record this episode. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive up the road a little bit, up Canyon. If you've never been to Boulder, honestly, put it on your bucket list. And then driving up Canyon is absolutely a dream. It is the prettiest view ever. The mountains are insane. And we usually take Canyon to Netherland. And when we do that, not me just like literally looking around myself to make sure there's no rattlesnake trying to like pounce on me. Anyway, when you do that, we always see this like trail on the side of the road, and I am so unfamiliar with it. Like I have no idea what the trail is. I don't know where the trailhead is. And then today I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go look for that trailhead, and I found it. And I'm perched up again next to the creek. I was trying to film with the creek behind me, but for lighting purposes, it wasn't going to work out. Like you just couldn't see me. I was just a silhouette amongst the creek. Maybe I'll include some clips of the creek after I'm done recording this episode because it's so calming and beautiful. And one thing about me is I love the outdoors. Like I like being outside. I love sun. I don't really like bugs, and I don't really like foresty wood things in terms of like, okay, what's lurking underneath all of these leaves? What is lurking behind the bushes? Like that kind of stuff freaks me out. I don't like animals in that way. Like I don't like snakes and spiders and things that could potentially bite me and kill me. And I don't know what to do in those situations. I'm very ill prepared when it comes to nature, but I love nature. And so for me, I want to do more episodes where I'm outside because I think I just think more clearly when I'm outside. We went camping the other day, and that's another thing. Camping is so great in theory, okay? Camping in theory is so incredible. And honestly, in practice, it is too in a way because you are so disconnected from the entire world. Like you don't have your phone, you don't have Wi-Fi. Your phone is just, like you feel off the grid. Like I feel off the grid, and truthfully, I have kind of developed a bad relationship with checking my phone often and checking social media often, which is rare for me because I used to take a lot of social media breaks. Like I used to go on these breaks where I would take like 2 weeks off of social media and then come back on, and it was easy for me and I loved it. But lately I've been finding that I'm a little too connected and I'm having a hard time disconnecting. And so it was really nice for that purpose. Like it was really nice to go off the grid, to not even look at my phone, to fill the habit with silence and journaling and being with Lucas and Ethan and my boys and being present. It was really, really nice, but tent camping is not really our speed. And I think it's a little difficult with kids. Like the kids did great, but I think it's a little hard because I want to be able to go explore the nature. Like I want to go down to the lake. I want to go maybe for a little hike on the trail. But when the kids are down, when they go to bed at like 7:30, I can't go do that. Like I can't go watch the sunset because I don't want to leave them in the tent by themselves. Also, your girl has like 4 pillows that she uses at home, okay? I am a 4-pillow girly. And when you're tent camping, you're in a sleeping bag on the ground. Well, we have a sleeping pad and then a sleeping bag and then a pillow. But I need multiple pillows to be able to sleep well. So it just wasn't ideal. I always wake up feeling like I got hit by a bus. And honestly, I just don't know if it's worth it, because you set up, it takes like an hour and a half to set up. Then you maybe explore for a bit. Then you start cooking dinner, and then you do s'mores, and then the kids go down, and then you're just kind of like at the campsite with a fire, which is nice. Great conversation, great fire. And then in the morning, we didn't even really explore. We got such bad sleep that we were kind of like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. Like, let's just get the fuck home. So we made breakfast, packed up, and left. Like, that's not the way to do it. And maybe it was just the fact that we didn't do it right. But whenever I think about how we would do it right, it would be in a camper, like a camper van. Like, I don't want to be in a tent anymore. And I don't care if that sounds bougie. It's just like so not my speed. But anyway, when I was there, I was journaling because I, again, have been feeling like I've been really connected lately. And I feel like most people probably struggle with that. But whenever I am silent, it's almost like I'm uncomfortable with the silence. Like, I think ever since Lucas started culinary school in January, and I have Monday and Tuesdays where like I'm with the boys full time, and then at night I have no help either because he doesn't get home until 10 p.m. I think I just started like kind of being in fight or flight a lot, and putting a podcast on while I was doing the dishes, or letting the boys watch some TV while I was cooking, or just like not being present with myself or with my kids, because I was just kind of trying to like go through the motions and get the routine down so that when the kids do go down, I could then have time for myself. But that time for myself then turned into scrolling and being on my phone or watching a show because I didn't want to sit with myself. And that's a new thing for me, because I am somebody who has always really appreciated time with myself, where I could journal, where I could meditate, where I could pull tarot cards, or just like literally sing with myself, like put some music on and sing and dance and just like be in my own energy. And it's been a really long time since I've willingly done that. And that's what I feel like I've been realizing lately is, you know, I'm getting this new job, and I promise I'll stop being so cryptic when it starts, like the actual job starts, because it is going to start soon. Anyway, I digress. I feel like a lot of my time is going to be taken up by this new job that I have in a really, really beautiful way. Like, I'm so excited about it. But there's that mom part of me that feels guilty, because I'm like, okay, well, a lot of my time is going to be going to this new job, and it's away from my kids, right? And I was thinking, like, why am I feeling irritated in this in-between time of I have my kids, I'm not working my job right now, I do have more time than I usually do. Why am I feeling irritated? And it's because, one, I'm wishing that I was somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am so excited about this new job, and I'm so excited about the dreams that I have and the goals that I have for myself. And so when I'm home with my kids, I'm not like present. And I was thinking about that a lot, because I think that there's a very big difference between being there and being present. Like, being there is not the same thing as being present. Being a stay-at-home mom or a full-time mom who is physically there but not mentally and emotionally available is not great. And if I'm being honest, like, I've been that for a bit. Like, there are definitely moments where I'm present with my kids and I'm playing and I'm so in it. But there are a lot of moments that I can recall where I'm like distracted. And I have to ask myself, what is better? What's better? Is it better for me to be physically there but not playing with them, listening to a podcast, kind of being in my own energy, but also not because I can't because I have my kids? So it's like I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Is that better? Or is it better to be gone for maybe 6 hours, but when I come home, I have an hour or two where I am locked in with the kids? Like, what is better? Okay, so I just had to switch locations because the camera overheated. But anyway, I'm now parked outside of my therapist's office. Fitting. I actually haven't seen her in a really long time. Maybe I should book an appointment. Just go ahead and walk in. Anyway, I was saying that it's actually really interesting because growing up, my dad traveled a ton for his job, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she mommed full time, and she was always there, and she was super present with us as well. But it's interesting because I remember my dad being there. Like, I remember him being there. I have fond memories of him. I have memories of me playing with him. Like, I don't register how much he actually was gone, like my mom does, who didn't have his help all the time. Because when my dad was home, he was present with us for the most part, you know, like he was a very present dad, and he would always go to like my volleyball games, and he would be at my cheer competitions if he had to. And even like if we were home, we were having a conversation, we had like dinner together. It was very much a present parent over just like a their parent, which is interesting. And I think that if it teaches me anything to look back and reflect on that, it's that I don't notice, or I didn't notice, children don't notice how much time their parents spend with them, as long as the time that they're spending with them is locked in, present, they're getting their parents' attention, and there's no distractions. I think that matters more to a kid than like the quantity of time. So like, I think that kids appreciate being your only focus, even if it's for 30 minutes versus being around you and you're not paying attention to them for like 3 hours, you know? And so that's kind of just what I've been reflecting on, is as I'm approaching all of these new things where I'm going to be, just hit my fucking head. As I'm approaching like all of these new things that I'm doing, I just want to make sure I go into this new chapter of my life with that reminder of, it's not about the time that you spend with your kids, it's about how you spend that time. Are you being present? Are you putting your phone away? Are you not being distracted? Are you giving them your all? Are you listening to them with your eyes, ears, and just like whole self? Are you playing with them? Are you feeling like you want to be elsewhere? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that feeling of wanting to be elsewhere. I mean, that I think is a part of just having kids young, for me at least, and maybe just it's a part of having kids in general. Like sometimes you do wish that you could be getting your to-do list done, or you could be sleeping, or you could be out with your friends. Like there are these moments, especially in young motherhood, where I'm like, damn, I never got to live my 20s without also being responsible for another human being. And so I don't like being hard on myself about that. Like I don't want to shame myself for being like, damn, it's hard for me to be present with my kids, because sometimes it's just how it is. Like I have to be compassionate about that, because if I'm not compassionate towards myself about these things, then I'm not going to get anywhere. So that's just kind of what I've been thinking lately. And I hope that if anything, this was insightful or like entertaining, or you can relate to this, because I don't know, that's something that has been on my mind, and I feel like we could all use the reminder to just be like more present in our life. Again, it's not about the quantity of time, it's how you spend that time, right? And speaking of spending the time and how we spend it, let's get into the should I give a fucks, because these were actually good and I haven't read all of them, so I'm excited to dive into them. So let's start off with the first one. BFF has been MIA since we moved. Didn't reach out before we left, even after inviting her over. Okay, so I'm curious if you moved closer to your BFF or you moved away from her. Should I give a fuck? Best friend has been MIA since we moved. Didn't reach out before we left, even after inviting her over. Should I give a fuck? Yeah, I would actually give a fuck about this. Okay, I'm going to assume that you moved away from your friend, but like you're still in the same state, just maybe like to a different house, or maybe like a different city. I don't know. I'm going to assume that you moved away, but like close enough to still be able to see her, but just like not as often. I would care. If I was moving like farther away, my friend didn't come see me, I would care. However, I wouldn't make it like a huge deal, because I think that like people are busy, people have their own lives to live, and I think as I'm getting older and as I'm becoming an adult, I'm realizing that more and more is like people really don't mean to do things that feel hurtful to you. Like people are not really out here trying to be hurtful, trying to, you know, behave in a way that's not being a good friend. They're really not trying to do that. And so I think if we can remind ourselves that more often, I'll just lock my doors really quick because there's somebody walking by. I think if we can try to do that more often, where we're giving people the benefit of the doubt, I think that we will save ourselves a lot of exhaustion and a lot of energy. I would care though, and maybe I would say something in like a funny, joking way, be like, bitch, where were you? Like, we moved and you didn't even come say bye to us. Like, what's up with that? Like, I would just address it in a funny way where it feels like I'm not taking it too personally, but it was on my mind. I don't know. I'm interested to hear more. I think I need more details with that one too. Suffered from PPD/PPA, so postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety for anybody who isn't familiar. After my second born, husband cheated in this time. Not your husband making your postpartum experience all about himself. That's a big fat fucking no from me, okay? You should give a fuck, because here's the thing. I am in no way saying that postpartum isn't an individual experience for both the birthing person and the non-birthing person. Like, every person directly involved, like the parents directly involved in this postpartum experience, are entitled to their own experience, and they do have their own experience that's different, right? But when your partner is struggling and going through these hormone changes and these mood changes and these really, really hard mental battles, for you to make that about yourself and the neglect that you might be receiving and then going to cheat, it's just beyond me. First of all, I think let's start here. Let's just take the postpartum depression and anxiety out of this for a second and talk about like the cheating, right? I think I might have an interesting perspective on cheating because I understand why people cheat. Like, I get it. I get that people have temptations. I get that people are hurting. I get that people sometimes choose to make the bad decision willingly and like do it in a self-sabotaging way. I get all of the reasons that somebody might cheat, right? Like, it's justifiable. Like, I get it. Well, I don't mean that it's justifiable. Like, they justify it in their heads. I get how they can justify that in their head, right? It's not justifiable to me because I am such a big proponent of honesty. I truly believe that if somebody is being honest with you, you cannot get mad at them. Like, I believe that to my core because one, it takes a lot of vulnerability to be honest with somebody. But two, if you are being honest with how you're feeling, you're kind of taking the blame away from you. So what I'm saying is, like, I'm not talking about somebody cheating and then being honest about it. What I'm talking about is someone being like, hey, I am feeling neglected, or I am feeling tempted to step outside my marriage or step outside my relationship. Like, coming to your partner and actually saying that is really impactful, really powerful, and really respectable, because I think that there is like this nature in humans, like, where, you know, just because we get married doesn't mean that we don't still have eyes. Like, we still find people attractive. We still think that people are good looking. It's a choice to step outside of that though and act upon that attraction. But if you were to just be honest about the way that you're feeling to your partner, maybe you guys would come to an understanding that this is not the right relationship for you guys, or you could come to a place of like, oh, I'm just going through something and I actually don't want to make that shitty self-sabotaging decision. Like, it can go from, because here's what's happening is, like, you're having your own experience of postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, which I'm so sorry that you're having that, because that's so fucking hard. That's so fucking hard to be in that place. And I just want to say, if you are still there, it's going to get better. I believe that. I believe it's going to get better. And you deserve to ask for support and ask for help and get whatever support and help that you need. Here's the thing. You weren't getting support or help from him. And here's the other thing too. He felt like he wasn't getting support either. And that's why he probably cheated. Because when somebody is going through something, it is really hard to stand by them. I'm just going to say that. It is hard. It is a act of sacrifice every single day to stand by your partner when they are depressed or when they are an anxious wreck. Like, it is an active choice, but you make it for the ones that you love. You don't make it all by yourself. And so what I'm thinking happened here is, like, you were having your experience of postpartum, and then he was having his own experience, and instead of coming together and him standing by you and talking you through it, and also saying, and hey, this is how this experience is making me feel, instead of coming together, he chose to go the other way. And that's shitty. So I would give a fuck. And I would really ask myself if this is something that I would want to salvage or not. Because I also don't believe that if somebody cheats, then that's it. It's as cut and dry as that. Like, you guys have 2 kids together. It's not cut and dry. So ask yourself if this is something that you want to salvage or if it's not. And that decision might take time to find some clarity around. But the reason I say you need to ask yourself that and then decide is because you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you are going to choose to salvage this marriage, you cannot be bitter. You cannot be resentful. You cannot be 50% in and 50% out. You have to be willing to make the choice to forgive and full-bodied, full-heartedly forgive and choose to move forward. You cannot be like 1 step forward, 1 step in the past. You can't. But if you choose not to salvage this, then obviously that's a different story and you can go your separate ways. But the thing is if you're going to salvage it, it cannot get in the way of the future of you two, you know? So I'm sorry that you're going through this, because this is really fucked up. And I can only imagine how you must be feeling. And I wish that I could give you a hug and that I could just be there to hold space for you, because this is fucking tough. And I'm sending you love, and please update me. I would love to hear about how you're feeling on it and like help you talk through it. So yeah, damn, that's a lot. Okay. Friendships changing, being in your early 20s, post-grad, any advice? I'm so lost right now. I think it's really normal to be post-grad and then your friendships change because, one, everyone is now out of this college bubble and going on to live their lives, whether it's in a new job or a new city or with a new person. But I also think a lot of friendships in college are founded on your social life in college. So whether that's drinking or clubs that you're a part of or teams that you're a part of or just a friend group that you met in the dorms, like I think a lot of friendships happen by circumstance and they're not actually founded on true, genuine connection. And even the ones that are founded on true, genuine connection, they sometimes dissipate. Like, that's something that I wish we normalized more, is growing apart from people, because I truly do believe that there are some people who are meant to be in your life and you're meant to be so connected with them, inseparable, until you're not. And I don't think that that says anything bad or negative about you or the other person. I think all it means is that they were meant to be there for that time period. And now you're meant to go and do your own thing and they're meant to go and do their own thing. And I think if you're feeling lost, maybe it's because you're being asked to create new relationships outside of this college dynamic and outside of these prior friendships. And I think that's beautiful, but I do hear you. It is scary and it does feel confusing because you're also like, where the fuck do I start? Right? And I think I've gotten really lucky because when I became a mom, like right out of college, I became a mom. I also got my health coaching certificate. So then I was blogging and doing a podcast and finding a lot of community within Instagram around the same things that I was doing. So like a lot of girls that I met through holistic health coaching, a lot of girls that I met through podcasting. And I was able to foster like this virtual community that I then made in person because I found people in my area that were in that same place, like in the same industry. So I met a lot of people through Instagram, and I am like a chronic, like, oh my God, let's go grab coffee. Like, I would love to hang out with you. And I also think like following your intuition on where you're being called to go. So like I went to a yoga event last summer at this place that I love because one of my friends was teaching. The girl who was leading a cacao ceremony at the yoga class just like seemed really fucking cool. So I was like, I need to go meet that girl. And I actually did a podcast with her. Her name's Ashley. And I met her and I was like, wow, like you're fucking cool. Then we got coffee. And then after we got coffee, she showed me this gym that I now go to. And then this gym that I now go to, this other influencer goes to now who I have followed for a bit and was like, oh my gosh, I know you. You're fucking cool. Let's go grab coffee. So after, seeing her at the gym and building like a little relationship, we went and got coffee. So I think like a lot of it is about following what your heart is telling you that you need to do and trusting that you're going to be led to the people who are here for this season. And so that also takes, I think, a lot of like self-discovery and self-exploration, through journaling. I always say for people who feel lost, like figure out what you like and what you don't like. So if you like yoga, start going to yoga classes, start going to community yoga classes. Those I feel like are a lot better about like building community. So like farmers markets or like yoga in the parks or things like that. And then like hanging around afterward and meeting people. I also think like there are a lot of networking events. So go to like networking events for people in their young 20s or like girls in their young 20s. There's a lot of events that I feel like are happening on social media, and don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. So like you have to follow your heart. You have to figure out what you like versus what you don't like. You also have to be okay with getting out of your comfort zone. And that's scary, especially when you have been like attached to certain friendships. Like you don't really want to go meet new people, but you have to. And so I feel you should give a fuck though, because building relationships is like, I'm in this era of my life right now where I'm realizing that all joy and success and happiness and love and good things in life come from the people that you surround yourself with and the relationships that you build. And the meaning of life for me is connecting with other people, is building relationships, is networking where I'm meeting someone that I really love, and then through them I meet somebody else, and then through them I meet somebody else, and then that person gives me an opportunity, or that person opens this door to me, because you can learn so much about yourself through other people. And so if there's anything that I encourage people to do is get out of your comfort zone by meeting people. And it doesn't have to be this big, like, I'm going to go to a networking event and put a name tag on me. Like, start a conversation with somebody next to you at the coffee shop. Start a conversation with the barista at the coffee shop. Like, go and say hi to the yoga teacher after the class. Like, just have small conversations about what the fuck ever. Like, literally about anything and everything. And I feel like once you do that and you just kind of get those reps in, everything will fall into place. But that's the biggest thing, building relationships. It's huge. Okay, next one. Bunch of girls/guys I work with planned a getaway and I wasn't invited. Oof. What'd you do, girlfriend? I'm just fucking with you. But honestly, what the fuck is going on here? Because I would give a fuck about this. I'm usually like not the biggest person to like, okay, I'm usually not the person to have a big deal about this. Like, I don't care about not getting invited to a lot of places. Like, because here's the thing, I have to ask myself, like, would I actually have said yes? And 80% of the time, probably not. But it is nice to get invited. And if you're like the only person that has been excluded, I would fucking care. I would give a fuck. My ass would probably just drive up and show up and be like, what the fuck? Maybe I wouldn't do that, but I would definitely call Taylor up. I would call her ass up and be like, what's going on here? Why did I not get the invite? Like, am I missing something? Somebody tell me like something that I don't know. Like, I would actually get to the bottom of this. So talk to maybe the closest person that you are in this group and be like, why was my invite lost in the mail? Or you could play dumb and like pretend like you don't know what's going on and then ask them, be like, oh, what are you guys doing this weekend? And then see what they say. You never know. They could either be like, oh, we're doing blah, 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 blah. And they lie to you. And you're like, okay, well, I heard that you guys are all going to this. And then be like, why wasn't I invited? Or they could be like, oh, we're actually doing this. Do you want to come? So maybe it wasn't intentional, but it's feeling intentional. And I feel like if you think it's intentional, then you probably know that it's intentional. either way, I think you should either let them know that you know and you're annoyed that you're not invited, or you should call them up directly and confront them and be like, why the fuck was I not included in this? But it sounds kind of like a Vanderpump Rules situation. Like, it kind of sounds like a reality show, not gonna lie. Literally, I've watched one episode of Vanderpump Rules and I think like I know the entire plot. Okay. My mom making me feel like shit for not moving home post-college. Hella comments always. Oof. Here's the thing. I was raised in a family that was said a lot of shit, talked a lot of shit. Like, my family dished it the fuck out. Like, we just gave it to each other. We were always talking shit to each other. And it made me really tough, and it made me have really tough skin. And I think that's a lot of why I don't care what people think as much, because I've heard everything from my family, and like, they mean it in a joking way. And I actually think it's helpful to like joke around and make kind of pointed jokes, because it allows you to figure out whether you want to care about it or not. But obviously this is triggering you. So I would ask yourself, why is this triggering me? Like, what about this specific comment feels triggering? And I would probably bet it's because you want to go off and live your fucking life and you want your parents to be happy for you about that. But maybe it's not. So figure out why it's triggering you and then confront them. Like, if it's something that is triggering you and you're like, this is why, and I feel like I need to tell them this because I want the comments to stop, you need to address it with them. And the next time it happens, be like, hey, I've noticed that you've said this so many times. Do you not want me to move away? And if so, why? Because I'm so excited about this next chapter of my life, and it feels like you're not being supportive of that. And it also makes me feel like shit because I don't want to make you guys upset, but I also want to live my fucking life and feel like I'm supported by my family about it and like celebrated, encouraged for that. So either figure out how it makes you feel and address it, or figure out how it makes you feel and decide whether it's worthy enough of like the energy. If you can let it go in one ear, not the other, or if it needs to be addressed. Because I think that's something that I've learned as I've gotten older and like had two unexpected kids. Like, there's some shit that my family members have said to me, and I feel like I always felt like I needed to defend myself. I always needed to like prove why those comments were inappropriate or whatever. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I can't change people. And sometimes that's people's way of like being endearing or feeling or trying to relate to you or trying to talk about it. It's like somebody who doesn't know how to give you a compliment, so they say it in a really weird way, but you're like, I think I got what you're trying to say. I think that sometimes people just don't know how to act, or that's kind of just how they show their love in a really weird way. So you have to decide whether you can let it go in one ear, not the other, because that's what I've learned is now there are certain things that like even my parents say where I just let it go in one ear, not the other, and it's fine. But sometimes it is worth saying something about it so that the comments stop. Anyway, update me on that because I'm curious. And I'm so excited for you to move away after college because, dude, that is literally my biggest advice for anyone who's between the ages of like 18 and 24. Go move the fuck away from your hometown. Get out, get a growth mindset, get some perspective, get some culture. It's the best decision you'll ever make. Okay. Have been with a wonderful man as my partner for over 3 years, but I just don't feel the deep connection and intimacy that I desire. Like, I don't feel fully seen. Where is this? And understood by him. I am at a loss if I'm just ungrateful or if I should trust my intuition. Should I give a fuck that I want and crave more? Or should I check myself and take a deeper look at my own part in the dynamic to maybe improve these factors? I think you know exactly what you need to do. And I think the fact that you're even saying, I don't know whether I should trust my intuition or if I should check myself, like, I think you have a really good awareness already. And I think if you are feeling this way, it's not by accident. Like, you're not making this up. You're actually feeling this way. I don't think it's you being ungrateful. Like, get that out of your head because that's not what's happening here. I think that there's a part of you that doesn't want to feel this way. And that's totally normal. But you also can't neglect the fact that you do feel this way. And so I would do exactly what you said. I would take a deeper look at my own part in the dynamic, like you said, to maybe improve the factors. And if you can own your part and the feeling is still there, there's your answer. Because I think that there's nothing wrong with giving this relationship your 1010% effort. Because if you love this person and you've been in this relationship for a while, over 3 years, I think that's deserving of giving it like the old college try. You know what I mean? Like, give it one last shot. Because you don't want to, like, of course you don't want to lose this relationship. Of course you don't want to. It's the last 3 years of your life. And maybe your partner's just going through something, or maybe you're just going through something, or maybe it just kind of like got, your relationship kind of like fell by the wayside. And I don't know if that's enough to just give it up already. I'm curious how old you are too. But also, not that that really matters, but I think sometimes it does. I also think that you should not be upset for wanting more. Like, I don't think we should be made to feel like we just need to settle and we're being ungrateful. Like that to me sounds like somebody else put that in your head. Somebody else maybe that you were talking to was like, oh, you're just being ungrateful. Like you should just like not want more. That's bullshit. I hate that. If you want more, it's because you're supposed to want more. Like, I truly believe that we wouldn't be feeling these feelings if we weren't supposed to. So give it one more try. Check write down all of the things that maybe you feel like you're not giving in this relationship, that you're not putting your all into. Own your part. And if they're still not owning theirs and there's still something missing and you're still craving more, go get more. And don't feel bad about it. Because this is your life. Okay. That was the last Should I Give a Fuck? This was really fun. I just really enjoyed having my coffee with you guys and shooting the shit and hopefully giving some sound advice. Like, take my opinion with a grain of salt, right? Like, you know your life better than I do. But I also feel like one of my gifts is knowing what to put energy into and knowing what not to put energy into. And I hope that I can help some of you guys get some clarity around that, because I think I have a lot of people who come to me who are people pleasers, who really care what other people think, who will put their lives on pause for somebody else's benefit, who will prioritize the comfort of somebody else and remain uncomfortable. That's not your girl. Like, I just couldn't do that if I tried. So I think that's also why this series is maybe impactful for some of you and fun for me, because I think I get to like tell people my mindset and my process of thinking on it. And I think it can feel empowering for people who might be people pleasers or put other people above them to be like, actually, I don't need to fucking do that anymore. So I hope that is how this made you feel. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at justmans with 2 S's or on TikTok at just.mans. Love you guys. Bye.